Police say former NFL player Philip Adams shot and killed.
Police say a suspect, 25-year-old Noah Green, drove into two Capitol police officers.
They're some of the most notorious crimes of recent times that seem to have little to do with the world of American football. But as a country grasps for answers, why and how could they do this? Some believe clues do lie here, in head injuries sustained years before they ever committed such awful acts. It is a theory increasingly prevalent in the courtroom, which directly links repeated concussions to horrific violence.
This brain is from a person who played football in his youth, had a few concussions.
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, more commonly known as CTE, is a brain disease which can affect people who play contact sport.
An unflattering spotlight on America's favorite sport.
The long-term dangers of all those hard hits to the head.
It's caused by repeated blows to the head, but it doesn't just affect professionals. Maisie is the mother of Noah Green, a former high school star.
Noah said it got worse after that skull fracture and the concussions.
Noah suffered repeated head injuries on the field. Speaking publicly for the first time, Maisie says she started to notice his personality changing as the years went by.
There you go, get on up. He would start wearing blankets around his head. And I just thought, it was like a teenage thing. But then he would lose his keys. And I think he forgot how to prepare his meals. And then after that, it was like he started these bad headaches. Real bad headaches. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. He's like, I've got to get out of the country. They're going to kill me. I was like, who's like the FBI? They're going to kill me. They're doing me wrong, Mom.
It was paranoia.
Yeah.
That paranoia met a fatal end when 25-year-old Noah crashed his car into a barricade at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., killing Officer William Evans and lunging at others with a knife before police shot him dead. Shannon Terranova, the mother of Officer William Evans' two young children, told Sky News, I want to be mindful of all who were impacted by this real-life horror, but it's difficult for me to comprehend any rationalisation of what happened to Billy and the events that led up to his death. Nothing can justify what Billy's co-workers and family experienced, saw and felt on April 2nd, 2021, and every day since.
How did you find out what had happened that day?
My son, he called me and said he had bad news about Noah. He said the Washington Post had called him
and said Noah had been shot in the Capitol.
After his death, Maisie had Noah's brain examined. It was recommended she do so by the FBI. The diagnosis came back. Stage 1 CTE.
What would you say to Officer William Evans' family, if you could?
Officer Evans should not have died that day. Noah should not have died that day. None of this should have occurred that day. But someone has to take the responsibility for telling parents what to do if something's just not quite right with those kids that are out there playing football for entertainment.
I travel from Virginia to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city forged from steel with a long history of producing great American footballers. It's also the site of the first National Sports Brain Bank.
Entire ventricle would be...
Dr. Julia Koffler is asking for former American footballers to agree to donate their brains for study.
Those are like fluid-filled spaces called the ventricles. When the brain is bounced around, the fluid is like sloshed around in kind of waves.
Dr. Koffler is looking for CTE by cutting cross-sections of the brain and later analysing it under the microscope. The disease can only be diagnosed after death.
Over a period of years, scientists here are looking at brains to establish, among other things, whether some individuals are more prone to developing CTE than others and why that might be.
CTE can cause profound changes in personality. Depression, anxiety, impulsive behaviour and aggression are all common.
Do you think there may be a link between CTE and violent crime?
It's really difficult to draw any conclusions about what motivates someone. We certainly know that neurodegenerative diseases can cause all sorts of different behavioral changes and changes in executive function and judgment, so it certainly could have contributed.
In Rock Hill, South Carolina, they know all too well the debate around CTE and violent crime. It's known as Football City, USA, having produced more NFL stars than anywhere on earth. But it's also the site of one of the most harrowing murders committed by a former American footballer.
Police say former NFL player Philip Adams shot and killed 70-year-old Robert Leslie, his wife Barbara, and their 2 grandkids, only 9 and 5 years old.
Also, 2 air conditioner repairmen who happened to be at the doctor's home in South Carolina.
Philip Adams' family believe his actions that day were directly linked to head injuries suffered before he even started his NFL career at South Carolina State University. The university deny those claims.
When it happened, I had some people calling me and saying, "Coach, it's Philip." And I was like, "No, you done lost your mind. It's not Philip."
You couldn't believe it?
No, nobody could.
Perry is the godfather of football in Rock Hill, a coach of 30 years who knew Philip Adams well.
All of us have knots on our heads that from places that we've done. So when somebody comes out and says football and CTE, you got to give me more data than that.
You think the connection's being overstated?
Oh yeah, because it's okay, it's football, but we teach different now. So any NFL teaches different tackling techniques. So we made our game safer, and what it did, it made us make our game safer.
Now, poor Patrick got a lot of brain damage, I'm sure, that game.
Karen Ziegel is one of those fighting for more research. She lost her son Patrick, a university football star, to suicide aged 32. His post-mortem showed mild CTE.
We watched him over 10 years, sadly, lose himself, lose his dignity. He was paranoid, he was argumentative. One time there was an incident with him, and he said a homeless guy attacked him in Pittsburgh, and he broke his hand punching this person. So, I mean, the rage was definitely scary.
Through her organisation, Stop CTE, Karen is campaigning for the brains of those who commit mass violence to be analysed for traumatic injury.
Every time we're looking at the symptoms of, they lost their job, they broke up with their girlfriend. Everybody wants to know why. Why would someone take another person's life? If you've dealt with somebody whose brain became unwired, you see the lack of empathy. They don't care about other people, sadly. We're not going back to the root cause, which could be a damaged brain.
Concerns about brain injuries have contributed to the growth of flag football, a sport which means fewer big hits and less obvious danger. But the popularity of the NFL is enduring. This year's Super Bowl final was the most watched TV event in American history. But for its stars, the damage may already have been done. The human cost of the richest sport league in the world is far too difficult to count. Martha Kelner, Sky News.